The Texans visit the Jaguars this weekend with the second overall pick, possibly the first overall pick, hanging in the balance. I think the Jaguars are going to be very motivated to win. The Texans are already motivated to lose by virtue of the decision to go with Davis Mills over Tyrod Taylor. That means tank. That means lose. That means rise in the draft standings. And one of the unfinished items of business in Houston relates to quarterback Deshaun Watson. There was some reporting last night that got me to fire up the engine a little bit and gather some information. The reports last night were that in October, a judge signed search warrants for Deshaun Watson's social media accounts like Instagram and Cash App or Cash something. I don't know. I don't use them, so I don't know what they are. I'm going to sound like Bill Belichick saying
play the old man
whatever.
Music. Here we go.
But don't play it yet. But
No.
You'll have an occasion to over the course of the next half hour or so.
Great.
My understanding is these were, number one, old search warrants. This happened in October. Number two, it was all stuff that Deshaun Watson's camp has said, we'll give this to you. You don't need search warrants. You don't need it. We'll give it to you. So it was just kind of a non-issue. But what it did was it dusted off something that when the window closed on the possibility of trading Deshaun Watson this year, we'd kind of forgotten about Deshaun Watson. Here's what I currently understand as to where everything sits with Watson. There's an expectation, a belief, a feeling that by the end of January, at the latest, we'll know what the grand jury in Houston is going to do about those state court complaints that were made by 10 different women, 8 of which have sued Deshaun Watson. 2 others just have criminal complaints. We'll know by the end of January. And I think there's a possibility of some sort of a misdemeanor charge. And the question is, how would a misdemeanor intersect with the personal conduct policy? Would that trigger paid leave? Probably not. If he ultimately pleads guilty or no contest or whatever to a misdemeanor charge, what kind of suspension would that be? Who knows? But end of January is where they're currently thinking this is going to resolve. And to give you an idea of how close it all came to resulting in a trade of Watson from the Texans to the Dolphins wanted the civil lawsuits to be settled. All of them. There are 22. My understanding is 18 could have been done, and there were 4 holdouts. And if the 4 holdouts had agreed, it would have been Deshaun Watson playing quarterback for the Miami Dolphins and not Tua Tagovailoa, who is now on the brink of taking the team back to 500 after a 1-7 start, Miles.
Well, that's pretty remarkable. I mean, it is definitely going to be something to watch, especially at the end of January, because that's kind of when teams start looking at things that can happen for next year. And I think that is exactly when the trade of Matthew Stafford from Detroit to the Los Angeles Rams started happening at the end of January. So it's not like that's totally a dead period for things, even though the playoffs are still going on. And now that there are more playoff teams and there are more games in the regular season, that's going to push things back in terms of the Super Bowl and championship games. So it's really kind of interesting just how close that trade was to happening. I mean, when you talk about Tua Tagovailoa and the way he's responded, I think after a slow start this year, and they obviously had the injury and all that, and he's been dealing with a bunch of different things. Now Miami's playing in a way that where he's got more confidence, and some of that probably has to do with the opponents, but it's also now he knows that he's going to be the guy. I bet that, has helped him a little bit, at least for the rest of this year. So, when we talk about like how close all of these different things are to happening, it's really, really interesting.
You make a great point, though, about late January. Even though the league year doesn't begin until March 16, business gets done unofficially weeks in advance. So to the extent there's going to be a quarterback carousel that spins this year, and there will be every year now moving forward, I believe, people are going to be staking out their turf possibly before we get a final answer from the Deshaun Watson grand jury. So late January still may not be as early as it needs to be, even with the official transactions coming on March the 16th.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.